We will be discussing the historical landmarks and UNESCO sites in the Philippines. First to be discussed are the cultural sites. We have the Baroque churches of the Philippines. First in our list is the San Agustin Church, Manila. It is a place that stands witness to Philippine history. It was built in 1995 and it is already 430 years old, making it the oldest church in the Philippines. Don't you know that the building of San Agustin Church in Manila started in year 1571 and was only completed in year 1607? The San Agustin Church exhibits remarkable features such as retablos, or the altar of high Baroque style, and wall buttresses separating crypto-collateral chapels. Next is the Santa Maria Church. The parish of Santa Maria started as a chapel of East Visita of Narvacan, Ilocos Sur, way back in 1769. 40 years later, the bell tower beside the church was built in 1810 as a home for missionaries. The third church in our list is the St. Augustine Church, the magnificent historical icon of Ilocos Norte, and it is one of the most famous and oldest church in the Philippines. It was built from 1694 to 1710 and the most outstanding example of earthquake Baroque architecture in the Philippines. That's why it was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1993. Next, we have the Miagao Church. It is also known as the Santo Tomas de Villanueva Parish Church of Iloilo. It was built in 1786 and was designed with the Baroque features with touches of Chinese and Filipino style, imposing designs, ornaments, and motifs, making it one of a kind church. Next, let us proceed to the historic city of Vigan. Established in the 16th century, Vigan is the best preserved example of a planned Spanish colonial town in Asia. Vigan also represents a unique fusion of Asian building design and construction with European colonial architecture and planning. What you see in the video is the rice terraces of the Philippines by the Cordilleras. The Ifugao rice terraces are the priceless contribution of Philippine ancestors to humanity. It was built 2,000 years ago. The rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras is an outstanding example of an evolved, living cultural landscape that can be traced as far back as 2 millennia ago in the pre-colonial Philippines. The terraces illustrate a persistence of cultural traditions and remarkable continuity and endurance. Now, let us proceed to the natural sites of the Philippines. Yes, the picture that you see in the video is the Puerto Princesa Subterranean River National Park. It encompasses one of the world's most impressive cave systems, featuring spectacular limestone karst, landscapes, pristine natural beauty, and intact old-growth forest and distinctive wildlife. It also contains an underground river that flows directly to the sea. Second in our list is the Bataha Reefs Natural Park. It is one of the world's most pristine coral reefs that lies in the middle of the Sulu Sea and is one of the Philippines' oldest ecosystems. It is known for its extraordinary biodiversity, abundant marine life, and breathtaking drop-offs into the open ocean. The area covers 130,028 hectares of high-quality marine habitats containing 3 atolls and a large area of a deep sea. Lastly, we have the Mount Hamiguitan Range Wildlife Sanctuary. It is located along the Pujada Peninsula in the southeastern part of the Eastern Mindanao Biodiversity Corridor. The Mount Hamiguitan Range Wildlife Sanctuary has an elevation range of 75 to 1,637 meters above sea level and provides artificial habitat for a range of plant and animal species. it also represents a complete, substantially intact, and highly diverse mountain ecosystem. Let us continue our topic by the tentative list in the Philippines. The cave that you see is the Tabon Cave Complex in all of Lipuon. It is named after a megapod bird that digs its nest into the ground. This was the site to first establish the presence of humans in the Philippines during Pleistocene. Next is the Paleolithic archaeological sites in Cagayan Valley. These archaeological sites in Cagayan Valley yielded rich finds, added new chapter on complex history of human evolution. The cave sites in Peña Blanca, Cagayan provided among the earliest hominid fossil in Southeast Asia. The sites in Solana, Cagayan produced prehistoric stone stools and remains of megafauna that pushes back frontiers of Philippine prehistory. And lastly, we have the Kabayan Mami Burial Caves. It is found in the northern part of the Philippines. They were made from as early as 2000 BC. When industrial activity began in the forests north of Manila, loggers discovered ancient burial caves hewn out of the rock containing mummified remains and hundreds of coffins and skulls. Let us also tackle the Butuan Archaeological Site. In 1975, as a result of the construction of an extensive network of large drainage channels or esteros to relieve Butuan City from destructive annual floods, significant amounts of archaeological artifacts were discovered that dated back to the age of contact with the great traditions of Asia, coeval with the Yue-type wares to Ming dynasties of ancient China from the 10th century to the 16th century AD. Let us continue our topic for the Baroque churches in the Philippines. We also have the church complex of Patrocinio de Maria, Boljon, Cebu. The Augustinian friars built the church of Patrocinio de Maria in the 18th century. The church and convent still uses clay roof tiles for its roof. The complex was a fortress church. Next is the Church of La Immaculada Concepcion in Gian, Samar. The present church was first built by the Jesuit missionaries in the 18th century and later was taken over by the Franciscan friars. Numerous parts of the church interior are decorated with seashells. Next is the church complex of San Pedro Apostol in Lobok, Bohol. The present church was first erected by the Jesuit missionaries in the 18th century, then later taken over by the Augustinian Recollects who had their share of construction. Next is the church complex of San Isidro Labrador at Lazi, Siquijor. The church complex was built by the Augustinian Recollects in the latter half of the 19th century. The church has two pulpits, the original retablos and the wood floors with herringbone pattern. And of course, we have the Church of San Matias at Tumawini, Isabela. The church walls are made entirely of brick. The facade is a magnificent display of the used ornamented brick laid out in characteristic design. The bell tower of the church is cylindrical. The complex is fenced with brick walls, which is also ornamented like the rest of the church. Let us also talk about the petroglyphs and retrographs in the Philippines. These petroglyphs are of animate figures interpreted as representing juveniles or infants on a rock face in a rock shelter. The engravings are not decorative but are symbolic representations executed by different individuals using a single mental template, apparently with the same cultural persuasion. And our last topic is the Neolithic shell median sites in Lalo and Gataran municipalities. Neolithic shell median sites are located along the banks of the Cagayan River in the municipalities of Lalo and Gataran. The shell middens are in varying sizes and extent, and made up mostly of one type of freshwater clams, which is the Batissa childreni. And that is the end of our video presentation. Thank you for watching and listening.